Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Welcome, infinite beings. It's great to have you here with us on the Infinite Me, where every day that we're reminding you that you're already infinite. You don't need to go out and find your powers. You already have them. Maybe you just haven't been aware of them. So we're here to remind you how to play with it all. So I am Mandy, and over there is Nat next to me. And we're your infinite wingmates here to support you in playing in the infinite zone. And so yesterday, we did talk about the art of allowing versus forcing things to happen. So how to be in flow versus the ego getting a hold of things and forcing an outcome, forcing things to happen. So we chatted all about that, a bit more of a deeper dive into that. So a couple of days ago, we talked about this topic as well. And yesterday, we sort of dove in a little bit deeper to a little bit more of the intricacies, I guess, of living in that space as well. So, and how do you move between those two states? So check that one out. And we've gone yellow today. We're just new week, so we always change the color of our name banners at the bottom. So yellow,
Lemon yellow.
Lemon yellow. So today we were going to talk about doing what you love. So we have touched on this topic a little bit in a few other videos, but we want to jump into this a little bit more because it is a big thing that we kind of throw around that phrase a lot, like, oh, just do what you love and things will work out. And it is true. Yeah, and it is all true at the end of the day, but there is a lot of like things that can kind of go a bit sort of off target, if you like, when the ego can kind of get a little bit of hold of that very thing as well, and kind of make it, still being moved towards an agenda and things like that as well. So
this came up for me yesterday because we were talking about the art of allowing versus flow. And as we were talking, I was going to introduce this thought process, and I thought, I'll leave it for today because I think it's really important that we actually cover this topic specifically, because it is such a big topic, particularly in consciousness and spiritual circles, where everybody says, like you just said, man, just do what you love. And it's like, that's all well and good, but that's actually really hard for most people. So it's like, okay, let's break it down a little bit. But what was coming up for me, and I think this also gets thrown around a little bit, and I know that I've fallen prey to it as well, is that whole concept of, it's not about what you're doing, it's about the beingness of what you're doing. And I totally get that. And I absolutely 100% agree with that. But it was really interesting yesterday. What came up for me is I started to reflect on my own journey, and I was like, wow, a couple of months ago, I was doing everything around, before I started this project, everything around travel lifestyle. And I had been doing that for quite a few years, creating products and talking about it on lives and interviews and all sorts of things that we have done over the years. Now I come across to the Infinite Me, and I'm back talking with you again every day about stuff I absolutely love and just comes so naturally and so flowing. And so I'm doing this same sort of thing, like I'm having to put it out on social media and all these sorts of things that I'm doing. So the actions I'm taking every day are actually pretty similar. But the inspiration for it is totally different, 100% different. So it made me realize that the topic actually of what you're doing, like the context of what you're doing, actually is really important.
Yes.
So that was pretty much my aha. And it was like, I get the whole beingness thing, but it actually is about what you're doing as well, like the actual physical thing of what you're doing and what holds your interest, what's of value to you.
Well, I guess that kind of taps back into that. Like if we're here as an infinite being to express in this unique form, where everyone's a unique human expression here on the earth. So we're all got a different skill set and different interests and different personality, even, like so all that kind of comes into play. We are here to express very uniquely. That's what makes us different in the human game. But it is all that infinite expression moving through us. But if you take that into account, then we are here to all do different things, and we've all got different interests, and we're all going to create differently as well. So that does make sense to kind of then say, well, if you're really chucking into that infinite feeling coming through you, then it is going to be quite a different, unique expression that you're going to come up with. So it does make sense, and then it's you tap into that thing that you really love, it's going to feel very different in your body versus doing something because it makes you money, or like maybe the travel lifestyle thing. I'm not sure, like, you know, you would like, would you say that that was something that you were really loving? Well, it might have started off as something that you really loved to do, but then it might have taken a moment to, like
it
make
was definitely something I was
Mm.
interested in, because we fell into it a little bit, sort of thing. A lot of people have asked us, so how do you have your travel lifestyle? How do you go house sitting all the time? So we developed our products as a result of that. But there definitely was a point at which it became a task to run the group, like the big Facebook group we had, and answer all the questions and all that sort of stuff. So the enjoyment was moving out of it. I still loved talking about that topic. You know, if we interview, I would love it. And I still don't mind it, you know, talking about our lifestyle and our house sitting and stuff. I think it's really cool. But there was definitely elements of it that were starting to run its course. And I think it comes back to what we've been talking about over the last few days, particularly, is sometimes there's just a point where things run out of steam. And it's over. It's time to move on. That can be a relationship, can be a a project, your work. It can be in so many different forms. But I think it had just run its course, and I was almost getting to the point of forcing it, because the agendas had kicked in. I was like, this is our income. If I gave it all up, where do we get some income from? So, and then when we started this project, it's like, well, this is not bringing in income straight away. So, like, okay, how do we eat? So, you start to then get caught in the whole, well, I can do what I love, which is this project, but then I'm also going to have to do other stuff. So I had feet in both worlds for a little bit when we first started this. I could feel that. And it was like, oh, but this is the income side and this is the love side, and they'll balance themselves out. They'll be really cool. And then I just found that this was just getting harder and harder. Like, I just was not interested. Forcing myself to be interested in the travel stuff, and I was just like, I'm just not. Like, I think I've just got to admit that I'm just not interested. And that was even down to a couple of days ago when we were coming into Paris. I was just like really sitting with it in our 2 travel days, and still willing to do stuff for the travel lifestyle stuff. And I was just like, what if I just gave all of that up and just went, no, I can't do this anymore. I have to go 100% into Infinite Me stuff, because that's where my passion is. See what happens. Walk the talk. You know, we're talking about all this stuff. We have to live it. So you can't just keep talking about it in theory. I've actually got to get out there and live this stuff. So this is, us living this, or me living this right now, is making that decision. I'm just going, no, stop it. So, but just backing up a little bit, what was the point that you said? Because you said like a really good thing, and I want to talk about it. What were you just saying?
I was talking about the idea of it doing what you love. Like, it might start off as doing what you love, but then the ego kind of takes a hold of it, or just that everyone has a unique expression here in the world.
That was the point. And I think that's a really important point too, because a lot of people do, and we've worked with a lot of different people, particularly in like our roaming income side of things, sort of thing. Like, they want to start a roaming income and they've got an interest in something, but then they'll go and do all this research, which, you know, a lot of internet marketing or marketing people say you should go and see what your competition's doing, and work out what's working and what's not and stuff like that. And I think, okay, that's cool. I don't ever really do that, but the problem is then everybody compares themselves to each other. So, this person's got this massive business. I can't do that now because it's already been done. And I was like, no, it's your unique expression. No one will talk about it like you do. Like, you have to get your message out there still and talk about it. If that's your true passion, you have to get out there and talk about it. So it's just like, you don't have to worry about that stuff. Like, if you really are doing what you love and you found your voice about that thing, and however you want to put that out to the world, then you don't even have to worry about whether it's unique or how it's going to be received or anything like that. It's all taken care of. That's the thing. It's like naturally going to be so unique and so individual to you, and it's not going to pick up everybody. Like, you couldn't possibly think that your stuff's going to go out to everybody and everyone's going to love it. Like, it's the same with this stuff. Like, you know, a lot of people won't get this. They won't like what we're saying. We're against religion. We're against this, like all these different things. It's like, no, it's not for me. It's like, cool. Like, that's okay. It's not, We're not looking for everybody.
Yeah.
Just look to the people that we're speaking their language to, and they will be there.
Yes.
The more you get out there. But the whole idea of just being an individual and talking about what you want to talk about, like just do it unedited and unthought about, like just go and talk. like
Oh, on my legs. I gotta move. I'm seeing my leg and it's
like I hate that.
Yeah, I think it's true what you're saying. I think the other point around what you are just saying too is when it is coming from that infinite feeling moving through you, this thing that wants to be expressed into the world, then it doesn't actually matter what anybody else has to say about it too, because you're doing it purely because that expression needs to come from you. So that unique thing that you feel like you're here to do, and it might feel like it's quite quirky or quite out there or different to what everybody else is doing, it's like, well, that's the very thing, like you said, that people will connect with, because it is coming from the true authentic part of you. So it's it just lands differently. Like people, you know, we've probably all had experiences where you hear a speaker, whether you've seen them live or you watch a TED talk or something like that, when somebody's just purely in that zone of just speaking something because it's just they just love to speak about that topic, it just lands very differently to somebody that's kind of you know, it could be the space they're presenting it from too. They don't have to be the most perfect speaker, but it's the space that it comes from. It just feels different to someone that's maybe trying to, you know, read like something that really they're not really connected to the message that
it's not from them,
that they're talking, or it's a bit of a show for them. It's kind of, it has become a bit of an outcome that they're trying to get from something as well.
Just an agenda or something behind it. It's not a pure message.
Yes.
Such.
Yeah. And I was hearing something just the other day, somebody was talking about a speaker and where they were coming from, and the lady was saying, look, but English is not my first language. But she said it doesn't actually matter if I don't understand the speaker fully. It's the energy of where that speaker is coming from. She said that's what I actually connect to. She said, so it doesn't matter if, like, I don't fully get, you know, I can't translate that word, and I don't, but she said the energy is completely different when that person is just coming from that true authentic space and expressing from that. Then you feel it like at a cellular level, rather than you're not hearing the words, you're feeling the energy of what that person is expressing.
Where the words come from.
Yeah, whether that space that the words are coming from, which is that infinite space that person's just there purely to express whatever wants to move through them in that moment. They're not concerned about how it's landing. They're not concerned about if people are getting it or if it's making impact. None of that actually matters in that moment. It's just it will make an impact, but it's not their agenda sort of thing for why they're doing what they're doing. They're just doing something purely because they love to do it. So it brings up that point that we have spoken about before, about we're not here to be of service to other people in the world. It is actually about us, like in terms of the infinite expression of us expressing through us. That's the only thing we are here to do, because when we're in that space, to just expressing that love that's moving through us, or whichever form that is, whether it's speaking or it's a creation of something, it's a project, it's cooking, it doesn't really matter what that is, but that pure expression of us moving through us out into the world, that's the only thing we are here to do in the world. And how that lands for somebody else doesn't actually matter at the end of the day. It will have an impact. That's the thing. It definitely does impact other people. But if we come from that space of, I've got to make an impact on somebody, or I've got to achieve an outcome, then that's when the ego's kind of stepped in, and it doesn't become like a feeling. Hey, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, I just quickly looked it up. Yeah, that was the one where we actually talked about this.
Yeah, it's a video we did definitely like more than a couple of weeks ago. It feels like it was 3 weeks ago, maybe.
It was one of our first. I think it was our fourth video.
Yeah. So why I decided not to save the world. Yes. So.
No, I totally agree. It's 100%. And I've actually had a direct experience of this where we had created the 𝘾𝙤𝙤𝙞𝙀 Academy many years ago now, back in 2014. And at the time that we did it, it felt really true for both of us to actually put that material together. We've been running a Facebook group. people had asked the same questions over and over again. It sort of was at the time a little bit driven by not wanting to answer those same questions over and over again. But it felt true for us to speak, and we just sat down in front of the video, came up with the topic that we're going to talk about, and just talked. That was it. And that was our course. We put it together from there. When we actually had finished it and we put it out, there were a number of people, one or two in particular, that were really against it. And they sort of said, oh, we don't need to have an academy type thing to learn house sitting. Like, house sitting should be unregulated and people just do it because it's, you know, not rocket science, and you should just be able to do it. And, you know, it's all just common sense, blah, blah, blah. And it was like all very, very valid points, no doubt. But I couldn't deny that underneath it, it had felt true for me to actually put that course together and to do every one of those videos. Everything that got spoken felt 100% true. And it wasn't actually done from an agenda. If there was an agenda, it was to not keep answering those questions. But there was no other agenda to it. And it was so interesting. Like, so when the opposition came up talking about it, I actually had nothing. I was just like, you know what? I actually didn't put it together for you. I really don't care. Whether you want it or you don't want it. Like, it doesn't make any difference to me. I did it because I wanted to do it. And then people bought it. But I feel like they bought it, and this sort of got said so many times in that course, was, well, the energy was really interesting, and like it was really good in that course sort of thing. I got so much more out of it than I thought I would, because you know, I've been counseling for ages. I didn't think I'd get that much out of it. And it was like, but I feel like that was because of the space it had come from. We weren't trying to teach or like, we were just sharing stuff. Like, it was just sharing our experiences and sharing other people's experiences. That was it. So I feel like the energy was really different. And so I sort of feel like that example sort of sums up what we're talking about here a little bit, in terms of when you are really doing what's true for you in that moment, it doesn't matter what everybody else's opinions are. In fact, it's water off a duck's back. It really it couldn't get less.
It won't actually affect you when you know that you're truly tapped into that space and coming from that space. It just, that expression has to move through you. And that's what it feels like. It is just that you need to get this expression out of you. So like an artist, say, that's creating an artwork that's really in that space of just creating purely for themselves because they need to get that expression out of them, are usually the artists that have the biggest impacts, because they're the ones that people receive it because it's coming from that space. So that might not necessarily be their, they're not necessarily looking for that to happen, but it just seems to happen naturally because it lands differently. So that whole thing about a speaker coming from that space is just, it is the space that it's coming from. When somebody's really just letting that infinite feeling move through them and express through them without filtering it, without worrying about where it's going to land, or like you said, not have to impact somebody or whether they're going to get it, or but those things will happen, like, but it's not the goal, if you like. It's not the reason for doing it.
Sort of interesting. Like, I've noticed this a number of times now, like in things like the voice particularly, and those sorts of
the TV show sort of
singing shows. And you can just tell at a point at where the person blocks out everything else. They're just totally in their own zone, and they let loose. Like, it's 100% flow. And then you can tell other people, obviously, the nerves get the better of them, which is completely understandable. But then those that are worried about what the audience might think, or how am I presenting, or what do I look like, or how am I sounding right now, all those things, you can pick it a mile away. Like, when you really tune in, you can actually, and I sit there and I go, just let loose, just let out that last bit. There's a point where you're just letting there's a part that you're holding back, just let it out. And then sometimes I do. And it's just like, there's such a difference between those two performances. And how many times have we seen those sorts of performances actually go viral?
True.
Whatever it is. That, like, they're not expecting anything else, sort of thing. Like, they're just, I guess, they are the ones that have been a little bit downtrodden in life and hidden away, sort of thing, got this amazing talent, but have never really let it out, type thing. So they don't have any great expectations when they get on stage, almost. And so they just let fly. And it's like, everybody's just like, oh my God, like, that's ridiculous. So
yeah, it's like you're getting to witness that infinite expression moving through that person and expressing unfiltered, out into the world. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Sharon, I don't know if Sharon's still with us. If you are, hey, Shaz. Sharon said, when you're feeling something like that, it evolves and develops organically. I like your approach of just turning up each day and talking. As long as you're doing something, you'll feel it move in its own direction. Yeah, it does. Like I think that's a really important point, Sharon, that it does have its own direction. Like we've had an idea when we first started doing these lives about where it would go to and the message that we would put out to everybody. But after that, it's sort of now really interesting doing it, 5 weeks or something into it now. It's like, it's actually changed a lot. It's more refined, and it's really, it does have its own direction and stuff.
Yes. And I think even that point of, I think we just spoke about this yesterday, actually, after we jumped off the live yesterday, what we were talking about, that allowing and flowing and things like that. I was making that point. It was just like, not that we weren't doing it, but it was just like a reminder for ourselves, just going, we're doing this because we love to do this. Like, it's not about how it lands with anybody else, or like we have ideas of where we would like to take this and some things we would like to offer and things like that. But the whole point of it is because we're just creating it because we love to do this right now. And so as long as we just keep our focus on that and keep talking about the things that we feel like we want to talk about, it's not like, oh, we should talk about this now because then people will get this point, or it goes really well with that topic. It's just like, no, it will flow where it needs to go because this is what we want to talk about.
And I think it's even beyond just showing up lives and talking too. I think it goes into the marketing stuff. Like you pulled me up on stuff the other day, questioning whether some of the marketing stuff that I was doing, it's like, is that true for me to be doing that? And I was like, I had to sit with it. And I was like, yep. Like some of it was and some of it wasn't. So I sort of adjusted. So it's every step of doing what you love. It's not just the showing up and being the showman type thing. It's behind the scenes that goes on all the time. Like you have to be so onto it. Because really it comes like without agenda of, more people will see it if I do this and if I do that and I'll do this. Like it's doing it because you actually feel inspired to do that.
Yes. Yeah. And it's I mean, the point that you've just pulled up there on the screen from Sharon saying it will resonate with your target market, so to speak, without you going out to find the market. It's exactly that. It's that thing of it was a really good point I heard today, someone talking about, and it really kind of landed, and it fits really well with this topic about this idea that when you create something, so in this instance, they were talking about this lady that was writing a book, and she was explaining to this man that was sitting with her having lunch about how she's just so loving this book and this expression that was coming through her, and she couldn't wait for this book to be finished, and it was going to be sort of out in a couple of weeks' time, and she was so excited. And then she kind of did this throwaway line of saying, oh, I really hope my community really likes it and they kind of buy the book and they get really impacted by the book. And he was sort of saying, like, in that moment, her whole energy just changed from this expansive, like, I just love to do it, to this, like, oh, I hope other people like it. Like, it was kind of this really contractive kind of a ego kind of a statement, if you like. It kind of, it really shrunk her energy down. And then he sort of said to her, it's got nothing to do with your community at the end of the day. Like, it's like you're doing this because you need to get that expression out of you. That's the only reason you're writing a book. And she's like, oh, what are you talking about? I'm here to be of service to my community. And he's like, it's got nothing to do with service at the end of the day. Like, it's, yes, you will have an impact and yes, you will serve a community, but the reason you're writing the book is for you to have this expansive feeling. Like, you're writing it because you feel so expansive and you can't not write the book. Like, this expression needs to come out of you.
Not write it.
Yeah. And then beyond that, he said, it's none of your damn business what happens beyond that. Like, it doesn't actually matter what happens, how it lands. Yeah, it's like, it doesn't matter how it lands. It doesn't matter if it sells. It doesn't matter if it doesn't sell. Like, it's like you're expressing something purely for the love of it, and you're not concerned. The infinite feeling is not concerned with how it is received. It's not concerned if it fails, if it makes New York bestseller. Like, it doesn't matter. But probably the thing is, if it's coming from that space, it will land. Like what Sharon's kind of saying, your target market, it does land with them because they're tapping into that they can feel the space that it's coming from. But if you make that your intention, if you like, behind things, then it won't be that true expression at the end of the day, because it can't be, because you're putting that focus outside of you to impact somebody else, like outside of you. So it just automatically kind of dilutes the expression, and sort of the ego can then get a hold of it too and make it about something else, and you start becoming worried about how it's going to be received rather than you just being about the expression of it. Like that doesn't matter. You can't control how it's going to be received at the end of the day. It's not actually what you want to do. Yeah.
And you've sort of shifted the power at that point. You're putting the power outside of you into other people, your community. And instead of the power being in the infinite still, and channeling that, because all you're doing is channeling it. It's not even your information, if you want to get really technical. You know, putting out what you love actually shouldn't be your material at all. It's actually channeled through you in a human form, because the universe or the infinite doesn't know how to express itself without form. It can't do that. So it needs to come through and find a form that's willing to express that, which is why you might find that there's a number of people that come up with the same idea at the same time.
Yeah, true.
It's like, oh, I thought of that only a week ago. Oh my God, somebody else has just done it. Check. And it's like, yeah, because it was available. It was on the wavelength. It was on the radio station. All you had to do was tune into it, and it was yours. But you have to act on it. And this is the whole point of what we're talking about as well, is like, you can't just sit there and hope that it all comes to you. Yes, the idea will come to you, but then you have to do something with it.
It is that whole thing about the doing what you love does have to be met with. This is another point we were just talking about it before we jumped on. It was that whole point of, and we touched on this a little bit yesterday as well, about you can't just say, I'm just putting it out to the universe, and if it's meant to be, it will show up. And if I just do what I love, then if I do what I love, then the universe will provide. And it's like, well, that's true as well, but you do have to show up as well. Like that's kind of, sometimes we can say that because we almost then give the responsibility away, like, oh, well, I don't have to do anything now, like the universe will take care of it. And but it's like, no, you do actually have to do the work. Like it's up to you to do this expression that's coming through you. So there is work involved in getting that out into the world, whatever that expression is. Like it could be cooking dinner for somebody, it could be writing a book, it could be giving a speech, it could be, I don't know, like starting a family,
writing a blog post, doing some marketing. That's the thing. And I think thinking about it like from a science point of view, I guess, is like the infinite energy can't actually express itself without physical form. So that means when it comes through you, it needs you as a human being to take action. You have to bring it into form. Like you actually, that's the co-creating thing that everybody talks about, is that you actually are the doer of it. You have to be it and then do it. And then you'll have it. There you go. That ties it all together.
Yes, you have to show up. But it's that whole thing they say about like inspired action. Like you do have to meet that feeling with the inspired action and follow through on it and actually do the steps. Like you can't just sit back and the universe will take care of it. It's like it doesn't. Yes, to some degree it does, but you do have to do your part as well. Like it is that meeting.
It doesn't work that well. I have years of experience. That doesn't really
that, I think. I think it is a common thing. I think you go from that real doing stage, like the doing phase, to the spiritual kind of, just go with the flow.
It's doing nothing else but being on top of the mountain meditating.
So it's like, but there's no action in that. So like creativity actually means like action. You have to take the action to create the thing. So it doesn't just come into form, as you said. Like there is an action on our part in the human game to do that, to follow through on it. So then yes, it looks like the universe is flowing and we get into that flow state, but it is we do have to show up, we have to do our part.
It's it is interesting. It reminds me of a concept that Osho spoke about, and it's like, it's sort of related. It's very easy for people to go and sit on top of a mountain and meditate, and a lot of people end up doing that sort of metaphorically in that consciousness spirituality space, and I've certainly done it sitting laying on the lounge for years, like allowing. But he said that that's actually the easy part. The hard part is actually coming back down off the mountain, in amongst the people, and actually applying and living what you have become enlightened about, and what's come to you, what you've awakened to. It's like, that's the really hard part, is you actually have to live this stuff. You can't just keep talking about it. And I guess that's one of the essences of putting the Infinite Me stuff together, was because
talking about stuff
so many people, including ourselves, just talking about it all these years. And it's like, we have to live it. We've got to, we're the people that can lead the way to a new world, like that we keep talking about all the time. We keep hearing about is this new earth type thing. It's like, yeah, the people that are actually being called to consciousness are the ones that should be leading the way, but we have to learn how to live it.
Yes.
We have to learn how to be infinite right now. And step out and do it. Like, okay, if we really do believe, and this is sort of something I said to myself, is like, if I actually really believe all these principles I've been learning about and everybody keeps talking about, and there's enough evidence out there that it actually must be true, then I have to step into that. Like, I have to do my own stepping into that, and test things out, you know, test whether there's another step in front of me when I step forward type thing. Like, it's, there's a real practical aspect to that, which is that action taking type thing that we're talking about here.
Yeah. And I think it's the same thing too about getting ideas come through, because it's kind of, I'm definitely one that channels lots and lots of ideas, like too many sometimes, and it gets a little bit, I can get a little bit stuck in them sometimes. But there is that point that I was kind of just getting to the other day, and it's not a new thing that I've heard, but for some reason it's just kind of landing more. I think probably just because we're stepping into this project a lot more, just showing up and doing it because we want to do it, is that you can get an idea come through, but unless you do something with it, it doesn't become anything. Like, it just sits there as an idea. Like, it doesn't impact anyone. You don't create anything from it. Like, if you don't actually take some steps to bring it into form, and it doesn't matter the outcome of that. It's just more, you've got to just take it from that. Yeah, otherwise it just sits in that formless space as just an idea, and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't go anywhere. Like, that's not a creation. That's not, it's just a thought form still. At the end of the day, you've got to bring it into, so that was just that landing for me a lot more. It's just like, oh, okay, that it doesn't matter about having ideas. That means nothing at the end of the day. Like, you've actually got to do something with them. You're not sort of, you're kind of halting the expression if you don't do something with the idea. Like, getting the idea is the easy part. Like, as you said, like, that's the easy thing. Everyone can come up with ideas, like, but you've got to actually do something with the idea and show up and bring it into the world for it to be a full expression of that infinite feeling moving through you.
And the whole idea of the idea, if the idea comes to you, then it is actually doable. Like, it's come to you for a reason. Like, if it wasn't for you and it wasn't your bag type thing, then it wouldn't actually come to you. So as far as your capabilities, you may not have them straight away, but you would develop them along the way, you know, like where we're headed to with Infinite Me, who actually really knows. But I'm sure if I had a glimpse into the future 20 years down the track or something, I'd probably be completely freaked out right now and going, oh my God, I could never do that. But the fact is, you will gain those capabilities as you go. You'll be given what you need in every single moment to be able to actually act on that moment. So if it has come to you, then you sort of sit with it and go, okay, is this what I really love, and doesn't have enough energy behind it? So because it's just it's an idea, and it's a good idea that could possibly make you a lot of money, do all sorts of things for your business and getting you out there to the world and all that sort of stuff, doesn't necessarily mean they're all agendas, of course. So but that doesn't mean that it's not right for you either. It might still feel very true for you, but does it have legs right now, sort of thing? Is it something that has a timing attached to it? So it may not be right now. It might be in 6 months' time or 5 years' time. You know, you've had lots of ideas, man, that are only now starting to come back into play again of possibility. And they've sitting there for what, 10 years or something now. So,
some of them have, definitely.
But now we can start to see, they will come to fruition, like 100% they will. And they've still got timing to go, like they're not in the next 5 minutes. So it can be a timing thing as well. And so it's feeling into whether there's an energy behind that idea or that concept of what you love. Is it actually there right now to act on?
So,
So Sharon said, listening to you talking has also opened up my mind to giving myself permission to say what I really think, or think what I really think, letting go of outside influences. 100%.
Yeah.
We're going to talk. We are going to do a session on outside opinions, because I think we talked about that the other day.
We touched on it briefly, but
because it really is. The more we step in, maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow, because it really does follow on again from this. Because if you're following what you love, you are going to have a lot of outside influences of people talking negatively or whatever about it. So, but everyone's got an opinion, and it's about what you do with that. So we have touched on a little bit today, but I think we could dive in a little bit more probably.
Yeah. I mean, like the core of that whole thing is like when you are coming from that infinite space and that expression just needing to come through you, like, so it is this, like, I can't not do this thing, then you're not actually focused outwards anyway on how it's going to be received or what someone else is saying about you. It's irrelevant at the end of the day. It doesn't mean that person won't say something, but you don't care about what you just do it because you have to do it. Like, that's at the end of the day. They say that actually even about speaking. Like, so when they say that, you know, the number one fear is public speaking, you know, standing on a stage, and, you know, what I heard was, and it feels true, like, is the only reason it feels scary and you get nervous is because you're worried about how it's going to be received and what people are thinking about you. Whereas if you were just focusing on you and just showing up as you, as this expression that needs to come through, and you didn't care about how it was going to land, you wouldn't feel nervous, because you're not looking outwards. You're not worried about how it's going to be received on the outside of you. So
and I think we've all had experiences of that, where somebody will say, "Oh, can you repeat what you just said?" And you go, "No,
no, I don't."
I have no idea what I just said. It wasn't actually me talking.
Yeah, you're so in the space that you don't even know.
So in the moment, and it was so flowing through you, like channeling, like that whole thing we were just talking about. It's like, it's not even you. It's not your stuff.
Yeah,
it's the universe or the infinite wanting to talk.
Yeah.
So, but so Sharon also said, I'm interested to hear more about the physics of infinity. Very cool. There's a good topic. Probably not one for today. It's a bit involved. But that's a cool topic. The science behind all of this stuff is awesome. We love that shit. So we'll definitely talk about that.
Yes.
Sharon just had another one here. Seems to me when I get an idea that I'm actually going to do something with, I can keep getting messages poking me to move forward with it. Someone will turn up that can help me with a project or a gap in work or an inspirational place. Will happen for me to fill with working on that idea.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And that's kind of where that whole thing of, like, it's almost like what we were just talking about before about how the universe will, like, if I'm in the flow, the universe will just show up for me and provide for me. It's like, that is what happens, exactly what you just wrote, Sharon. It's kind of like when you take that next step, when you make that decision internally to express that thing, whatever it is, then you start to get the stuff happen from the outside world, exactly, to help you. It does. It's all there to support you. Like, you've set that up to happen that way so that it reflects back to you when you're coming from your power, and then you do get the support from the outside, and the ideas and the people show up, and the resources, all that kind of starts to come in.
And they are like doorways at the end of the day, but you actually have to open the door and step through it. And I think a good visual is that. I wish I could find this clip. The Transformers, where he is in the big void, big space, nothing underneath him, and he takes a step off the cliff edge, and suddenly the pathway appears in front of him as he takes step by step, and it's exactly how it unfolds. And that's exactly what you're talking about, Sharon. Like, as you take a step forward, the next window of opportunity or the next resource becomes available. You're not going to see the whole lot mapped out. It's impossible. You actually have to take a step forward to then get it, and that's the trust process. That's where we're all sort of learning to trust that in everything to do with life. In the money, in the relationships, stepping forward and saying I love you to your partner when that partner hasn't said that back to you, type thing. It's like, there's a step forward, because that's what you felt moved to do, and it doesn't matter whether that person responds to that or not. It's like, that felt true for you. There's a step forward. That's a trust step, and then the next opportunity arises, whatever that is.
Yes.
So It does show up all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Louise said, interestingly, we were having the same conversation this morning. Very cool. Of course. Of course you are.
Cool.
Very cool.
That's a good conversation.
Yeah, that was fun. That was really good. Cool. Yeah, well, let us know in the comments if what you got from the session, and how do you feel about doing what you love? Like, what has that meant to you over the time? Like, if you've been around consciousness and spiritual teachings, what has that meant to you, and has that changed a little bit since listening to this as well? Like, have we shifted a little bit about that there's action to be done, and you hadn't thought about that aspect of it, or you hadn't taken enough action, you thought you sort of were doing a little bit, but that was enough.
And also about it not being about how it's going to be received either. It's like you do it. It does purely mean do what you love. It means do what you love for you, show up for you, let that come through you, and not be about somebody else. Like, and it, you know, our ego and the, you know, world around us will want to kind of say that's selfish. But at the end of the day, we're all doing everything for ourselves. At the end of the day, we're all honest about it. Like, we're all doing things to meet our values and, you know, things that we want out in the world. So, but if you're coming from that real true expression that wants to come through you, then it has to be about you. You have to focus on you, because you're the only one that it's moving through. So you're the only one that can have that expression. So yeah.
For me, it's not being selfish at all. If you're being selfish, you're actually worried about everybody else.
Exactly. Yeah.
Look at it this way, it's selfless. So what happens is you've taken yourself out of the picture, and you're allowing the infinite to actually come through you.
Yeah.
So that channeling aspect, where you know 100% it's not your material, it's not you doing it, it's not your purpose and information and all that sort of stuff that's expressing through you, actually taking yourself out of it, your human self out of it, and you are just purely a channel of the universe and love and the infinite out into the world to make its impact as it does. Without, it's a pure message, like we were talking about. To me, not doing that is more selfish than anything.
Yeah, it's like we've got the definition of it wrong, or it's maybe on purpose so that we don't, you know, show up and have our full expression. So
yeah, but we have literally got it back to front. So
yeah, definitely. Yep.
the most loving thing you can do is to do what feels true for you and what's most loving for you. Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool. All right, that's it. That's all right.
Yes. I bet so, Tammy. That's
right. Thanks for joining us, Sharon and Lou. It was awesome to have you on, and thanks for your comments and bits and pieces. You added a lot of value. That was really cool.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. And we will talk about the physics of infinity, because it is actually really cool stuff. We love that.
Yeah, and outside influences too. Yeah.
Yes.
Go into it more.
Very cool. All right.
Thank you.
Until tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Play infinitely now, people.
Bye.